Hello everyone, and thank you for joining me again today. This video is specifically made for the X100 generation XK8 and XKR owners. I will go over the main options for us owners when it comes to replacing the shock mounts for the front suspension specifically of our XK8s and XKRs. Now, in total, I will cover 6 options. 3 of the options consist of the entire mount assemblies, like this, where you have the metal parts as well as the insulators coming together sort of as a kit, as a complete package. So 3 of the options consist of this kind of kit. The other 3 options consist of insulators only, where you would be reusing your existing metal pieces and just placing the new insulators in them and thus refurbishing the entire assembly. All right, let's get started with the most expensive option, and clearly that is getting an original shock mount directly from the dealer, Jaguar product. This is mine. This is the one that I took off the car. You notice that it's missing the bottom piece here, essentially this piece, because this is still attached to the spring. You probably saw that in the previous video. This is still attached to the spring. There's no reason for me to take it off. It will just stay with the spring. This is just a flat sort of seating surface for the rest of the insulator to lay into. So your first option is to get original parts from Jaguar. Now that's the priciest option. I called the dealer yesterday. They are available, at least here in Canada. They are available. The wait time is about 3 days or so. And the cost, including taxes in Canadian dollars for 2 left and right complete assemblies, is $1,089 and some cents. So roughly we're talking about $1,100 for both. This includes the metal hardware as well as the insulators. Now, this sounds like a lot, but if you think about it, this insulator is actually in wonderful shape. This is 23 or so years old now. It is still hard. It's not cracking. I don't see any obvious signs of it falling apart. So if I'm to spend $1,000 now, and I know that I have another 20 years out of that part, that doesn't actually sound that bad. Here's the one major concern that I have with this option, with the dealer option. If you remember in one of my previous videos where I was exploring the rear suspension bump stops, there we discovered that the particular bump stop that I had taken off the vehicle was manufactured in 1996, even though my vehicle is a 2001. So at the time of assembly, Jaguar had used a 5-year-old rubber part to put into my vehicle. So my thinking is, if that's the case, and now in 2024, I am buying this component from Jaguar, yes, it is a brand new component in a sense that it has never been used, but how long has this component been sitting in a warehouse somewhere with the rubber drying out, potentially being exposed to sunlight if it's not packaged well, and so on? Essentially, am I really buying a new part, or am I buying another 20-year-old at this point, or maybe even 25-year-old part, which has just been sitting in a box or in a warehouse somewhere for all this time? And if I'm buying a part that is that old, is it then reasonable to expect that even though it's an original part, it would actually be able to last another 20 years from this point in time? So there are a few unknowns there, a few red flags that I'm sort of worried about. So something to keep in mind with this option if you decide to go with the dealer. The next option for a complete shock mount kit is provided by Welsh, and they come in pairs. The cost, as you can see in American dollars, these are American dollars here, is $295.95, so roughly 300 American dollars for a pair, which puts you at about roughly a third of the cost of the dealer mounts. So that is significantly cheaper if you only consider the cost factor. What can I tell you about these mounts? Well, it's a bit of a mixed bag in a sense that I have read reviews from forum members who are happy with them, but I've also seen a lot of horror stories where forum members post pictures of Welsh mounts which have completely blown out and collapsed and just shattered. And I don't know what to make of it, in a sense that I personally am not overly confident with this particular option. As it's my car, I personally wouldn't go ahead with this. Now, you may also notice that even if I wanted to, I couldn't, because the mounts are out of stock. Now, I've noticed that they've been out of stock for quite a few months now, at least for 6 months they've been out of stock. Now, this may be because they started getting a lot of complaints from people who have purchased these mounts and the mounts have gone bad, or it may be just a product that they have phased out and they just won't sell it anymore, even though it is present and accessible on their website. Or maybe they have some manufacturing difficulties and they just can't produce them fast enough to satisfy demand. I'm not sure. But I wanted to bring it up here as an option. You're free to follow up with the company. You may inquire, you may get some more information from them in terms of what's happening with these mounts and whether they're coming back and so on. This third option is the well-known, famous, or maybe I should say infamous, Euro mounts. Now, the situation with the Euro mounts is the following. There's almost universal consensus that yes, these are the cheapest, and yes, they do not last long. If you get a season, maybe 2 seasons out of them, you'll be lucky. If you get 5,000 miles out of them, you'll be extremely lucky. So this is sort of the talk out there on the forums, on groups and so on. And if you have seen John's video at To The Garage channel, that's what he installed originally in his vehicle as well. And they went bad on him in a matter of months. I don't even think that they lasted half a year for him. So very, very concerning. But one thing I want to bring your attention to is that in pictures, the Euro mounts are always pictured in yellow. And even John's product is, the insulators were yellow, bright yellow. Now, these Euro mounts that I bought are different. They're clearly, the insulators are different. And I'm not sure if they are an improved sort of manufacturing process where the problems of the yellow substance, the yellow insulators, is addressed, and now they make them a bit more brownish, and these are actually these would actually perform much better. It's very possible. The price has gone up a bit from, what was it, about 70 something Canadian dollars to over 100 now. But it is an option for people who are on a budget and people who want to have sort of a plug-and-play solution where you get this, you decompress your strut assembly like I did in my previous video, you put those in, you compress it back, you're done. No additional work is required. And like I said, these seem to be a revised Euro product. It's very possible that they are longer lasting, that they will endure longer use period. I'm just not willing to give them a try. I bought them. I actually bought them even before I had bought the car. And I've had them at home for quite a few months now, but having seen what happened with John's vehicle, I'm just reluctant to put those in. So I'm going with one of the next options that we're going to talk about, where we're going to explore specifically the isolators themselves. Now, one thing I just wanted to bring your attention to, for example, when it comes to build quality, you may notice on these mounts how the rivets are slightly sticking up, protruding. Now you have to keep in mind this whole surface gets mounted onto the shock tower underneath the vehicle. So there's a direct metal on metal contact between this and the body of the car. So these things sticking out, that's a bit of a problem, I think. If you compare with the original Jag part, you would see how these are completely flush, right? There is nothing sticking out here. So clearly a much better execution with the Jag component. What else? In terms of hardness, I mean, both of them feel very hard. In terms of flex, this does feel softer. This flexes easier, even though this may have just hardened excessively over the years, right? This is not brand new component. It still flexes, but I could tell that it's a bit harder compared to this one. But when it comes to squeezing, it actually, both of them feel really, really hard. Clearly, the new Euro mount is a little bit thicker compared to the original, but again, the original is at this point 23 years old. And you can see how it has not deteriorated that far. Very impressed actually with the Jag part. All right, so this takes care of the Euro mount, and let's go into the more fun part. Thankfully, we have those extra options. And those are probably the best way to go. And those are the options where I would direct your focus towards if you're really considering doing this with your Jag. The first option for isolator only sets, where there are no metal parts included, is just the isolators, come from Energy Suspension. Now, quick note here, you may have noticed that I use the terms isolators and insulators as interchangeable. No, they're not the same words. They have different meanings, but I just use them interchangeably. You know what I'm referring to. Please forgive me. So Energy Suspension, here's the thing with this recommendation or this option. They actually don't make a product that is explicitly categorized for a Jaguar XK8. However, what I've seen on forums is that people claim that Energy Suspension do have isolators which actually match the size, the thickness, basically the dimensions of the isolators that we need. So theoretically, it is possible to obtain isolators from Energy Suspension, even though, even on their website, if you put in the year of your vehicle, you will see Jaguar doesn't even come up as an option, in a sense that they don't make a product that is explicitly designed specifically for the XK8. You may buy other meaning you may buy parts which are meant for other vehicles, which actually also work for the XK8, but they're not sort of bespoke parts. So just keep that in mind. Otherwise, it's a relatively inexpensive option if you would like to go this route. And again, you can contact the company and inquire, or measure the insulators and try to match them to one of the many. They have hundreds of products that you can explore here on the website. All right, we're down to two, and those are basically the best two. Those are probably what you should do if you are changing the mounts in your vehicle. So let's dive right into it. The last two options are provided by fellow XK8 owners and members of the community, and those are Peter Hubman and Steve Davis. You can see those options referred to here in the XK8 Bible, and you can also see Peter and Steve's contact information in terms of how you could reach out to them if you would like to go this route. Now, let me say a few things here. In my mind, Peter's solution and Steve's solution are equivalent. There is no good or bad choices here. Both of them are excellent. They have been sort of battle tested. They've been proven out in the field. Owners are very happy with them. Whether you go with Peter's isolators or Steve's isolators, I think you'll be perfectly happy. In terms of cost, I believe they're also very close, probably talking within $5 to $10 of each other. So that's really not a factor. Prices hover around 100 US dollars, but you should reach out to Peter and Steve to sort of sort these things out. The one biggest difference, I would say, is that Peter's isolators are slightly see-through and in the brownish kind of color hue, whereas Steve's isolators are black. They're just solid black color. That's one, probably the biggest differentiating factor from the outside when you look at them. I believe both of them are manufactured from polyurethane. Essentially, Peter and Steve have created molds that exactly match what sort of the size and shape of the donuts that we need. And using those molds, they use polyurethane to basically create the parts at home. And they've been extremely successful, very, very good, high quality product. Now, I chose to go with Steve's, and frankly, the biggest factor for me was the color. I just thought, okay, black is going to look more seamless. It's going to be more low key. It's going to integrate better with the black metal of the mount itself. It will sort of look a little bit more original, low key, sort of, it won't stand out. Even though Peter's product is actually not bright. It doesn't flash in your eyes like that bright yellow Euro mount, right? So either way, to me, color was a factor for you folks. You know, make your choice. The biggest difference probably is logistical in terms of Peter is in the United States, whereas Steve is in Australia. Now I'm in Canada, and theoretically, it probably would have been easier to get the isolators from Peter, but I worked with Steve, and let me maybe give you a quick overview of that experience. Excellent communication, very prompt, very fast, very attentive to all my questions. When I made the decision to go ahead with Steve's product, I transferred the money using PayPal. Steve mailed the package out literally the next day. He sent me the tracking number. I was able to track the package through Australia. I was able to track it getting on the plane, arriving in Canada, and then through Canada as well, all the way to my address. I did not have to pay courier fees. I did not have to pay duty fees. It was very smooth. The mounts were here in 6 days, I believe. It was less than a week. It was 5 or 6 days they arrived. They were packaged wonderfully, and Yeah, overall, very positive experience. I have them here now. Let me show you what they look like. Okay, let's get the package contents out. By the way, don't worry about this part here. This is coming in the next video where we're taking the metal components apart so that we can fit the polyurethane stuff inside. But this will be next video. For now, let's just review what we have here. So there's a brief sheet of instructions if you'd like to read through that. These are the small donuts that go inside in here and sort of hold the middle of the shock absorber. Inside, actually, you also have the rivets. So they come with rivets. These rivets, you need a new set of rivets to reassemble. You'll see that in the next video when we go through that process. Now here, okay, we have more of the small ones. So the thing here is that some of the casings, some of the metal casings, these are the Euros, the depth from this surface to this surface is different between the original Jaguar, the Euro, and the Welsh. So there is differences in depth here, and because of that, I believe both of Peter and Steve do this. This is not something that just Steve does. I think both of them take this approach. They provide you different thickness of these donuts so that you can sort of mix and match and make it work for the depth that you have with your metal extrusions. So that's why you have several options. Basically, you will end up using, there are 6 in here, 2, 2, and 2. You're going to end up using 4, and 2 will be left over, essentially. And here are the other insulators. Now, these essentially are a match to these ones. Actually, that's actually an interesting comparison. The Euro, I just want to see the thickness here. Look at that. The Euro ones are slightly thicker than the black ones. Very slightly. But they're also, I would suspect they're actually softer as well. I expect this to compress a bit under load, whereas this would probably stay much more rigid and non-compressible as you try to kind of put weight on it. So overall, they are flexible, kind of similar to, well, no, they're a little bit harder. I would say they're a little bit harder than the Euros. Not as hard as these, but again, these may have hardened quite a bit over the years, right? So they are flexible. Again, if I squeeze, it is almost impossible to make a dent here. The one thing that I really like about this is the fact that at the bottom there are holes to accommodate for this situation. Actually, I can even show you on the original because we are working with the original. So the bottom of the rivets sticks out and the bottom of the bolts also sticks out. So Steve has created those cradles here so that when this goes on, right, these parts get hidden directly inside the holes, and there is no, let me just get it to fit accurately. There it is. And now the seating is super smooth and clean, right? Everything just hides in there, and there is no, the insulator is not being pushed by those metal parts. Even Jaguar doesn't do that. These marks here are caused by the fact that the original mount has been stuck into this insulator for so many years, right? Even the original insulators do not accommodate in this fashion. So this is a definite bonus. It's a definite type of attention to detail that I really appreciate. You know, having this kind of thought put into manufacturing the product just gives me extra peace of mind. So we have 2 of these. As I described, we have 6 of these. Actually, give me a moment here to open this up. Here are the extra rivets. What's going on with the focusing here? There we go. The extra rivets. I also really like that there is this edge here, which will be needed. You can kind of see this part of the internal donut, how it comes up. Now, based on John's explanation and based on John's video, this is not because this internal donut is shaped that way. It's simply because of the squeezing pressure of those 2 metal plates coming together. The squeeze forces this donut to kind of come out this way. Whereas with this product, it is already built in, and there is no need for this to be compressed in such a way that it would be kind of pushed out, but rather this is already created for you and ready to seat perfectly in that opening. We'll see that when we're assembling in the following video. All right, folks, I think that's it for today. I hope this was thorough enough to give you an idea of options for mounts and really which way you should go. My bottom line would be go with Peter or Steve's solutions. You can't go wrong. It is a little bit extra work because you have to take apart the rivets and then re-rivet together. You'll see that in the next video, but other than that, you're getting excellent products for good longevity and peace of mind. Thank you, everyone. Best of luck in your upcoming projects, and I look forward to seeing you again in the next video. Take care.